Hello.
Hey,
How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you, man?
I'm very well, thanks. How's my
Excellent.
audio? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, your audio's great. How's mine?
It sounds good. Yeah,
Cool.
perfect.
Cool.
Sweet. Well, let me give a quick introduction. I think people are starting to trickle in, and
Nice.
yeah, and then we'll get to chatting. But hello, everyone. Welcome to Voice One on Air. My name is Danny Scott, and I am a professional voice actor as well as the school director at Voice One. Yes, happy Friday, everyone. Thank you, Erica. Anybody who is new to Voice One, just to let you know, Voice One is a voiceover school based in San Francisco, but due to the miracle of the internet, it is available worldwide. We've got classes for everyone from beginner to professional in everything: commercials, narration, animation, video games, toys, everything in between. Um, our location is in San Francisco, so you can take classes at our studio or you can take online Zoom classes and workshop. Visit voiceone.com or email us at classes@voiceone.com for more information. We'd love to hear from you. Our guest today, without further ado, is Tyler Rhoads. Welcome, Tyler. You've
Thanks,
heard
buddy.
Tyler in countless commercials in video games like Fallout 76 and Far Cry 5, TV series including Voltron Legendary Defender and Carcerum. Did I say that one right?
Carcerum, yeah.
Carcerum, yes. And you've heard his voice direction in video games and on Netflix English dubs, including the aforementioned Fallout 76, in a couple Godzilla movies, Godzilla the Planet Eater, Cathedral of the Sea, Fauda, Babylon Berlin, and the Full Metal Alchemist live action movie. So,
Oof.
Tyler, I'm so happy you are my guest today. Thank you for
I'm
being
glad to
here.
be here, buddy. I'm very
Yeah.
glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. And this is basically, it's an interview, but really I just want to have a conversation. I've got some questions, but if we go in a different direction, that's great. And for everyone tuning in, I'll make sure there's time for Q&A at the end. I know you've got questions for Tyler.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I know I sent you some questions beforehand and you laughed at my very first one.
Yeah, then
Um,
I had to put them away. I was like, no, these are too good. We got to get
yes.
we got to get that first thought on them.
Yes, that's right. So aside from the first question, all the other ones will be genuine reactions, never
That's
having
right.
seen before. But you're originally from Missouri and you fell in love with acting during a production of Peter Pan. Is that right? There's the guffaw that I missed.
Yeah. No, yeah, man, that's exactly right. I was 8 years old. I did my first community theater musical. Was Peter Pan. I was one of the Lost Boys. I had a name. The name was Musket. Don't ask me the things I remember and don't remember
None of your
are
lines, of course. Just
ridiculous. Oh no! My very first line was, "Look, a cake, cake." Which sparked a lifelong love of the written word, right?
That's
So,
awesome.
but yeah, man, no, this is more answer than you asked for, but I started school a year early. I was always the smallest. I was always the youngest in a very particularly athletically gifted group of guys
Oh wow.
that I came up with in a particularly athletically interested community in Central Missouri. So I was my entire childhood was trying to find a place to kind of fit in. I think a lot of us have similar stories,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I just really loved being playing pretend on stage with a bunch of people. As a kid, it was a lot of fun, and I just kept doing that. It was the thing that I enjoyed doing. So
I love that.
all through high school, I participated in speech and debate tournaments and uh, 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 that kind of thing. I did the high school musicals and continued to do community theater with this group in Jefferson City, Missouri, and then went to school, got my BFA in performance theater. Took kind of a gap year actually in
Okay.
school and did some touring dinner theater with this group out of Baltimore,
No way.
which is yeah, that's a whole nother chapter. But and then you know, when I went back to school, my thought was always to move to Chicago,
Hmm.
do some theater there. Chicago was you know,
Right, it's the
kind of my
entertainment hub of the Midwest, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, right, and, you know, I had no interest in living in New York City, but
Mhm.
I thought Chicago's a Midwestern city, I could do well there, and, I have an interest in comedy as well, more of a fan than anything else, but, so yeah, I thought, yeah, Chicago's the place, and then I did a, student film, written and directed by a guy named Daryl Claunch,
Mm.
who is a longtime collaborator of mine. He's a really good friend. Um, uh, but that was my kind of that's where I met Daryl. He just held kind of general auditions, and I thought, well, this is an interesting way to act. This is an interesting way to work. I've never worked, you know, in film
Mm.
before. This idea of being able to go back and get another take and to kind of live in a
Yeah.
moment for longer than that split second of reaction. It was interesting to me. So that's kind of what pointed me out towards LA. That
Okay.
was about what, 16 years ago, something 17
Wow.
years ago. I've been out here ever since.
Okay. So did you move to LA shortly after that film?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I had, what did I have? I had a couple years left of school, so I moved out here right after I finished up
Cool.
with my
So you got a
degree. Yeah.
taste for it and said, "Wait, that's what I want to do."
You know what? It was novel. It
Mm.
was interesting. Not that I'd fallen out of love with theater. I still absolutely adore theater. I wish I had time to do more. Um, but it was something that, you know, having known from a very young age that I this is what I kind of wanted to do, and having pursued it kind of only theatrically, only on stage, only in that way.
Sure.
It was a kind of a breath of fresh air. It was really interesting. You know, it's a similar story with how I got into voiceover, and we
Yeah.
can we can
No,
save that and
that's
get
my
into
next
that. But
question. So just
yeah,
let's segue right into that. How did you
okay,
get into
man. So
voiceover?
so again, kind of the novelty of it was what made it interesting. I'll give you the long-ish answer.
Yeah,
I moved here to do on-camera acting, and I had done some background work. I was trying to hustle my SAG vouchers. I'm sure a lot of your students know what that feels like.
sure.
But you know, to varying degrees of success and varying degrees of enjoying it, I started to get really frustrated being on set again, being a very serious actor. You know, these people who just kind of did it as a hobby seemed to keep getting the pay bump, kept
Hmm,
getting the features, and you
interesting.
know, I'm trying to go about it the right way, right, which was all, you know, Midwestern work ethic. You know, there's a right way to do things, which I absolutely disavowed myself of. But you know, I was getting really frustrated. And I had a situation on a feature film. I had finally gotten pulled out. Finally pulled for kind of a featured background thing. I went to a fitting. I got a costume. Everything was great. I was really excited. I showed up the next. We didn't film anything that day, but it was going to be like 2 weeks of work. So I thought, okay, here it is. Here's the
Hmm.
opportunity I've been looking for. This will kind of be the next step for me. And came back to set the next day. The second AD or whatever that was dealing with background had been fired. There was
Oh
no
no.
note of anything that they had done. I had been pulled off of the original roster because I was put onto a new roster. So there was no note of me even being invited to set.
Oh
I got
no.
escorted away by security, and thought, well, fuck it, I'm done. Sorry, but I curse like a sailor
You can
sometimes.
swear. It's
So
okay.
okay, good. Those of you with delicate sensibilities, leave now. But no, again, super disenfranchised, really,
Hmm.
really, really, you
Yeah.
know, down on myself. The restaurant I was working at suffered a fire. I was without a job,
Oh wow.
and
This
this
happened
was
around the same time.
exact same time, and it was right. I
No.
believe this was 2008, which is when the economy fell apart.
Mhm.
So I found myself disillusioned with acting, without a job, in the middle of an economic collapse. And in LA, which is,
Yeah.
one of the most expensive cities
Sure,
in the
yeah.
country to
Were
live
you
in.
just ready to
So
call it quits and head
I
back
was,
to
man. I was
yeah.
going to head back to Missouri. My dad's in politics. I thought, maybe I'll set up shop with dad, kind of get my feet under me, and kind of go from there, and really pivot hard.
Mm,
But I had a friend named Ike Amadi. Some of you may know Ike from his work. He works all the time, commercial, video game, promo. He's got one of the best promo voices out there. I love Ike. He is a dear friend. We used to attend weekend barbecues together. We had a lot of mutual friends. He's originally from Kansas City, Missouri. So,
oh, nice.
well, he's originally from Nigeria, but he grew up in Kansas City, is how he'd want me to tell that story.
Sure.
So, but he had just gotten a commercial campaign, and I thought, okay, voiceover, sure, whatever. Where do I go? Let me take a class and point me in the right direction. And he pointed me to a guy named, I'll give him a free plug here, here in LA. Pointed me to a guy named Bill Holmes, the voiceover doctor. I took his intro class and was like suddenly flooded with listening to my dad tell me, read me a book and using funny voices, right? Watching cartoons as a kid, my falling in love with video games, all of that stuff kind of flooded back to me at once, and it was like, oh yeah, this is where I belong.
Like, wait, I
This is
love
what I
this
want to
stuff.
do, right?
Yeah.
I've loved this since I was a child, and there's a way to apply, all of the things that I've worked on, all of the things that I love about acting and being an actor, being a storyteller. Um, uh, uh, it's just a different application of the same
Yeah.
skills.
Well, sounds like you're
Uh,
like me, where you didn't really realize that was a thing you could do until suddenly you go, wait, of course that's a thing you can do. Wait a
yeah,
minute.
and then you feel so dumb. You're
Yeah.
like, oh well,
There's
yeah,
a whole world
of
of
course.
voiceover out there
There's yeah,
and
and
people who
and
do it.
and a thousand ways to make a career in it.
Mhm.
And it's highly competitive and impossible to break into, and also very accessible and possible to break into.
Mhm.
So yeah, I absolutely, it rekindled the love of acting for me. It rekindled this idea that I could start a career in it. Bill Holmes is a mentor to me. He's been a dear friend. He's one of my closest friends out here. Uh, 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 I kept taking classes, kept learning from
Mm.
him. He
Yeah, it's
he
so
taught me
great
a
to
lot
have
about,
a mentor figure too, that you can really just, you
yeah,
click, they get you, they know your shortcomings, they know your strengths, and you really can
yeah.
grow, right?
That's exactly right. And
Mhm.
Bill very much is community oriented. He has surrounded himself with like-minded people. It's not it's not this kind of guru thing
Mm.
which exists out in the world.
Mhm.
It's very much the opposite of that.
Oh, that's great.
And so yeah, I found a community,
And did you
which
kind of
is
find a niche within voiceover? Like, did you enjoy, or were you really good at commercials or character stuff? Like, where did you kind of see
I
yourself
I
going?
love it
And
all, man. I really do. It's all different, but it's all the same. I am a firm believer in. I call it my theory of good acting translates. Like, it really doesn't matter what you're doing. The work is the same. It's just the way you apply it that's a little different, right?
Mhm.
The playground the playground equipment changes, but it's all the same play. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I everybody gravitates towards animation and video games. That's where you can have, the big fun, right? But I love commercial work. I love narrative work. I think promo is fascinating. I'm fascinated by promo, probably because I'm not super good at it.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a type of energy and
yeah,
almost kind of like a type of voice you would need too, although that's changing a lot.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Hmm.
They're looking for all sorts of voices, but there's a cadence, there's a rhythm to it. And it's very much it's very much about your own personal kind of point of view.
Mm.
I can't remember. I believe it was an agent friend of mine, Jeff Jones. I glean all of this little stuff from people, right? I'll always try to attribute it when I can, but I believe it's an agent friend of mine, Jeff Jones, who said, um, uh, "Your selling is the wrong word, but with promo, you're selling an experience,
Mm.
right? It's oh man, this thing is really cool. I'm really super jazzed for it.
I like that. You're
Or
selling an experience.
yeah, exactly. It's more about the ambiance and the atmosphere of a thing. I'm getting esoteric, but I find it fascinating. Again, probably because I don't fully understand it.
Sure. No, it is fascinating when you don't know how something works. You're like, how can I do that?
Yeah,
What do I have to connect with in order to sound like that?
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Um, but you did voiceover for a while, and then when did you get into direction?
So I've been directing on and off for probably the last 6, 7 years. Um, I started again with my friend Bill. Started just kind of directing in his booth.
Hmm.
He wanted to free up some of his time, and so I said, well, pay me just a little bit of money, and I'll hang around. I'll help direct auditions as they come in. That led to me doing that more there and in a more structured kind of way. We set up a couple things in his studio. I then started doing commercial casting sessions for the Voice Caster in
Cool.
Burbank. Yeah, it's a revered institution
Yeah.
there in Burbank. And wonderful people. I love them over there. They're really good peeps over at the Voice Caster. So I did that freelance kind of booth directing for a number of years, and then had an opportunity. A friend was working as a project coordinator at a post production dubbing house. Um, Netflix had just really started to buy up all of their kind of international properties
Mm.
and start dubbing them into English. And so they had a couple of projects that they hired me freelance on. And that was a great introduction to that world. I did that for about a year and a half, eventually going on staff there at that place. And doing that. That was kind of my 9 to 5 for a
Oh,
while,
cool. That's
directing and
not a bad
adapting.
9 to 5.
Not bad, man. And again, really interesting. But something that I identified in doing that work was I personally I enjoy the challenge of dubbing. I enjoy the challenge of kind of rejiggering a story that's already been told.
Mm.
I think it's fascinating. Uh, I enjoy that work. I enjoy teaching that work as well. I think it's really it's a fun thing to coach on and to talk about in a classroom setting. But as far as putting a lot of time and energy into it, I really wanted to tell original stories. I
Mm.
just I'm much more interested in that kind of collaboration than a collaboration with a production that's already been finished.
Either originating a role or being on the directing side of a
Yeah,
new role. Yeah.
yeah, I
Okay.
just I just get a little more excited about that.
Sure.
So I started kind of looking into what the interactive world looks like, and a good friend of mine, another just one of the best directors I've ever worked with, both as an actor and kind of shadowing and watching him direct. A guy named Kal-El Bogdanov.
Mm,
If you guys don't know Kal-El,
I
look
know
him
the
up.
name. Yeah.
He's the
For,
best. He's the best.
it's hard to forget
Uh,
someone named Kal-El. I mean,
yeah, right. Um, uh, but he kind of opened a door for me in the video game world. I got to shadow him on a couple of things, and then meet some folks at a couple of different production studios, and that opened the door for me. I was lucky enough to walk through that door, and that's what I've kind of been really working hard at these past few years.
okay. So are
Yeah.
you're doing a lot more direction the last couple of years than acting? Much more
Yeah,
on
I
this side
am.
of the glass.
Yeah, I that's just kind of the way it's shaken out. I still stubbornly can think of myself as an actor first. Um, and I probably always will, regardless of what the the
Well, that's got
spreadsheet
to influence your
says.
direction, though, coming from thinking about being in the actor's shoes. That's
Absolutely,
okay. I think
absolutely.
that's actually pretty cool.
They really inform each other. I've found,
Hmm.
as a director, I never had any interest in directing, Danny.
Hmm.
It was something that my organizational skills are average, if I'm being generous. I love collaborating. I'm a very collaborative person creatively. Um, I like surrounding myself with people who are really good at their jobs,
Hmm.
and let them do their jobs so I can do mine. But I've always thought, I don't know, I always thought of directing as this very, like, you got your show Bible, you got your what do you call it? Not cinematics, storyboards.
Hmm.
I thought of it very much from a film director's perspective. And that's certainly one way to do it. And there are people out there who are really good at that. I'm not one of them. And so, but I found, particularly with voice directing, um, I'm not responsible for a lot of that stuff. Yes, you want to think about what the animators are animating. You want to think about all of that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but largely my job, or the way I view my job, at least, we'll see how it goes from here. But I view my job as creating an environment in which my actors can be creative, supporting their choices, finding the strongest choice for the moment, all of that actory stuff that you do anyway.
Mhm.
I'm just there to kind of assist the actor, in that. I just have a little more context. I have a little more information than they do. So it's
Right.
my job to give them that information and let them make their choice. That I love. I
Mm.
love doing that. And when I figured out that that is a way to approach being a director, I really fell in love with it. So I forget what your original question was, because I've wandered
I
far away from
forget
it.
too. But
But
no, this is this is great and it's fascinating too. I think, it must be, I mean, I've experienced it even just in the couple of workshops I've taken with you.
sure.
It is it's so great when you can be put at ease by a director who understands what it's like to be to have that creative process and
For
trying
sure.
to take on this role, and then to build on top of that, to collaborate like you mentioned, is just,
Yeah.
it's the only good can come of it.
I remember directing and acting, right?
Oh yeah.
So as an actor, that greatly influences my direction. It's kind of my way into direction.
Mm.
I think of it from an actor's standpoint. I just have different information. Um, uh, and the flip side of that is, as an actor, I have learned to. I've always been really strong. I'll brag a little bit. I've always been really strong at script analysis. That's something that I really enjoy. It is the key component to being an actor, in my opinion.
Mm.
Uh,
Write
uh,
that down,
learn
people.
learn how to break down scripts, and not to not to force your own point of view on it, but to find your point of view in it, right? It is about being creative, and sometimes I mean, it's a very imaginative job, right? You use your imagination, you play pretend, but you gotta find the why and the what in the story. It's there. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking because it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about what can I create and make up in my mind. It's about how do I build this environment out to the nth detail.
Mm.
However, being a director has helped me do that even better, much more quickly. I find myself able to make strong choices um, uh, 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 very quickly upon reading a story, reading a script, and you know that having that strong point of view. People always talk about how do I stand out in an
Mm.
audition, right? How do I make myself stand out among the crowd? Um, the answer to that is make a strong choice. Make a strong choice. Commit to it,
Yes.
uh, and go from there. But you know, it doesn't really matter if it's right or wrong. If you make a strong choice, then we can work with that. You know, if it's way off base, I'll just adjust the information that you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that'll lead you to another choice. But practice making strong choices.
And I've heard too
Um,
from directors in, in talking about auditions, that by making a strong choice, even if it's totally off from what they were looking for, by making a strong choice, you show that you can act,
yeah,
you know how to do it. And if we
yeah,
give you a different situation, you're going to be able to handle that because you can act,
yeah,
because you can
yeah.
go there.
I mean, that's exactly right. You know, I would much rather, you know, go, whoa, that's crazy. That's way off base. Actually, this and this and this is happening, but then I can trust that you can go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can make that choice. Uh, um, so yeah, those are the two things: make strong choices and be adaptable. You know, learn how to take in a lot of information, and then boom, just go. Especially in
Go
video
with it.
games.
Mm.
Especially in video games. Video games move quick. You know, practice getting an improv class. That's
Yeah,
my
I wanted
number
to ask
one.
too, like, what are some of, oh, go back to that improv.
I was just gonna say that's my number one advice to people. Take an improv class.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't think you're interested in improv, take an improv class. It's not about being funny. It's not about the comedy of it. I'm a big improv comedy fan, but improv at its very heart is about listening to the other person, listening to what's going on around you, taking in information, right? Making a choice. How do I feel about that information? What does that information do to me? You react, and then you add something in, and then you shut all that down because something else is going to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
something else is going to happen. Um, I'll be a little bit controversial here. In I am a big
Yes,
fan of,
controversy.
well, sure, as much as I ever am. But I'm a big fan of Meisner technique. I really am, with the caveat that you have to see the forest for the trees with Meisner technique. It's not about being this actor, you know, very serious. I went through my serious actor phase. It fucks you up. Don't do it. But the kernel of information that is in Meisner, that you drill, is just that. Acting is reacting. It's a tenet of the technique, and it's one that I really believe in. Shut all the other shit out and just pay attention to what's going on and have a reaction to it.
Mm.
Um, uh, and that'll take you really far.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go back and just write notes on everything you've said.
Yeah.
You are a font of wisdom. Um,
Sure. It's the
sure,
beard. It's the
it
beard. The
is.
beard tricks everybody.
What's a day look like for you? Like a typical day, whether that's directing or acting or both.
Yeah. That's a great question. Right now I wake up at about 5:30 because I have an 11-month-old son. Uh, I'm up early these days. You know, my typical day right now is I'm on a little bit of a humble brag, I'll admit to it. I'm on like three different projects, ongoing video game projects right now. I'm directing pretty much every day of the week, which is
Very
and have
cool.
been. Well, we can get into pandemic stuff, man. This what a mixed bag of a year for me. I have personally and professionally had the best year of my life. Um, it's been crazy. I've got a little boy now. I've been working nonstop since last
Yeah,
spring.
voiceover kept going. That's
Took about a month. Took about a month for everybody
mm,
to go, oh, wait a second. We've been doing this from home for years. We can just keep
hmm.
going the way we've been going. My chair must be really noisy. I just
It's
caught
not
into it.
actually. I think
Uh,
Zoom cuts it out now. They're
yeah,
yeah.
good. So yeah, it's been bonkers, but yeah, after that month, it got real busy and stayed real busy. I've been directing, 9 to 5, uh, 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 pretty much 9 to 6,
Hmm.
pretty much every day
Eight to
for the
six.
last year and a half.
Oh, very
Um,
cool.
yeah,
Congratulations. That's so
thank you.
very happy to hear that.
It's a very different feeling for a freelancer because my big concern when everything shut down, obvious human stuff aside,
Hmm.
but professionally was, you know uh, uh, historically I've kind of made a living on doing a lot of different things, right?
Mm.
I got a lot of different pieces of the pie that all kind of come together to feed me. And um, uh, all of that went away, and
Mm.
um, the only thing I had was directing and acting a little bit. But even acting, I don't have a home studio. What you're looking at is kind of what I got here
Mm.
in the apartment, because I have good friends who own studios.
Oh, cool.
I'm fortunate enough to have keys to a studio that I can use pretty much at any
Well,
time.
that's
Uh,
nice.
it
Very
is
cool.
really
Good
nice.
for you.
I'm I'm the benefactor of a lot of really good people, which I think is an important aspect of making a
That's kind
living
of
at this.
the vibe of the VO community though, right? Like
Yeah, man.
VO people are good people.
I think so. To my experience, for the most part, again, you get your bad actor out there. Pardon the pun. But yeah, for the most part, man, I this community is really supportive.
Hmm.
They just want people to do well.
Yeah.
There's a real attitude, at least amongst the people that I hang out with, that what's the saying, rising tide lifts all ships. you
Hmm.
know um the, when one of us is successful, we're all successful.
Yeah.
And that has been a really big part of kind of my journey. um I try to give back to that as much as possible too. It's important. That's the luck part, I think, that a lot of people talk about,
Mm.
is really just being a genuine person, being a genuine human, networking, as in make friends and be good to them,
Hmm.
and take care of them when you can. And hopefully, they'll be able to take care of you at some point.
Yeah. It's networking, but being genuine about it,
That's right.
right?
That's exactly right. So yeah, that is so my normal day, getting back to the question, is I'll get the boy up. um my wife often is doing the morning feeding. I'll walk the dog. We'll get breakfasts together. um we have two or three uh, friends that have become kind of nannies, babysitters,
Oh,
that
that's
come over and
nice.
help, because my wife is working full time
Mm.
from
Yeah,
home
you
as
need that.
well. So yeah, it got to the point we had to have help come in, which was terrifying during the pandemic and everything, but we figured it out. And again, the gals that are helping out are good friends
Mm.
and have been just absolutely crucial in all of this. But so I'll usually hand him off at 8. Um, uh, get my food together if I haven't already. Down as much coffee as I can before sitting down at 8:30
Yes.
to get set up for my morning session. So yeah.
Hmm. Cheers.
Um, yeah, and then again, typically it's 4 hour sessions, 2 4 hour sessions. Get a break for lunch, in which I once again furiously walk the dog and get lunch together and help
Squeeze
out with the
everything in
baby
that
when
you
I
can. Yeah.
can. Yeah. And then it's we keep a pretty strict 7 o'clock bedtime in this household. And so I get off at 6.
Mm.
We get the boy ready for bed and then eat something and try to stay awake on the couch for as long as we can until it's rinse and repeat. And that's my everyday right now, man.
Wow.
Which is great. I'm playing
Yeah.
pretend every day.
Oh yeah.
Can't beat
So, and
that.
are you getting voiceover auditions? If so, like, are you having to squeeze them in?
Yeah, that'll be after dinner. Usually, I'll head over to again to my buddy's studio, and if there's nobody in there, I'll use the booth there. Squeeze those in at the end of the day, and try to get home before 10.
um, well, let me ask you one more question, then we'll open it up to folks.
Okay.
Do you have any advice for actors who are just beginning to dip their toes into the world of voiceover? And a follow up to that one, any advice for people who are in it, who are maybe working or maybe not working but auditioning?
Hmm.
So advice for people on both sides of the
Yeah,
learning journey.
be persistent for everybody. That's around the board. Just be persistent. Worry about the things you can worry about. Focus on the things that you have control over. Do not focus on the things that you don't have control over, which is easier said than done because there's a lot that we don't have control over
Mhm.
in this business. And those are the things that tend to frustrate us. But look, you've got no control over casting. You got no control over who gets picked for what. Don't bother yourself with it. Uh, 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 that voice is always going to be there. Don't fight against it. This is the kind of headspace meditative kind of shit. That stuff's going to be there. You know what? Meditate if it works for you, because it teaches you to accept the reality of the distractions around you, but to continue with what you're doing. Right? It focuses you, and that is a very important lesson for actors. Be a really good fucking actor. Just get really good at it. Learn how to break down copy. Learn how to make really, really strong choices quickly. Get really good at improv, at reacting to people. Never take yourself too seriously. Never take this business too seriously. Um, uh, uh, you know, uh, and just know that if you do that, if you practice doing it, you will get very good at it. You just will. Um, uh, it's there are so many distractions in the business right now with social media and I see a lot of people hustling out on Twitter and on Twitch, live streaming and putting all of this energy into stuff. If you love doing that, do it. If that
Mm.
feeds you, do it. Do things that engage with it in a way that you love as much as possible. But if you don't love it, don't do it.
Mm.
Because you're just gonna piss yourself off, and it's toxic, man. There's toxicity involved in this business. So just just get really good at it. Take classes. Take classes with as many people as you can. I'm going again, and you can do that from wherever you are. You guys are up in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
If you live in the Bay Area, take some classes with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Just
And we have
find
online classes, so
do online classes.
wherever you
I
are.
I am still of the opinion, and it's probably just a stubborn opinion, because I picked up and moved my life out to LA and have hustled and suffered out here. I still think you need to be here to engage, less and less. As this work from home stuff happens, we'll see what the next few years look like.
Mm,
A lot of the animation stuff, a lot of the video game stuff is still based here in LA.
mm,
Until you get yourself firmly established, a lot of times you need to be here in the market,
mm,
but challenge yourself to move to a market. It's very different. It's very different sitting at home in Kansas City and hustling your ass off. And there are people that have never lived a day out in LA or New York or Chicago, or San Francisco, which is a market these days.
mhm, mhm,
Atlanta, which is a huge market these
mhm,
days. There are people that have never lived in these places that make a very, very good living at this. You can do it. Um, again, this is just personal opinion, but I don't personally know why you wouldn't challenge yourself,
mm.
to come out here and say, okay, big dogs, let's see what it feels like. Um, Again, that's a personal opinion. Everything I say is a personal opinion, but I don't know. Challenge yourself. Constantly challenge yourself.
Mm.
Reinvent yourself. Be game for anything. Um, be open to whatever opportunity is in front of you. And what the hell? Try it out. What else are you doing?
That is a lot of very good advice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I, for one, appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone listening is furiously taking notes.
yeah. Oh, I lost my
Oh,
side light.
I saw
Oh
that.
no. Oh no.
Well,
You
let's
guys are
see.
gonna have
We've
to deal with full on front top and top light now.
no,
I
that's
lost my
okay.
highlight.
That's okay. Um,
I'm gonna pretend like it made a difference.
well, let me go to some of the questions. Let's see. If you do have questions, everyone, please put it in the Q&A spot, so then it's really easy for me to find an answer. Mike Wong has a couple questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Relative to the entire pool of opportunities, how much video game VO work involves motion capture? Is there a significant benefit in attempting to specialize in mocap, or as long as you can come correct with performance and your own physicality, are you okay to pick up the mechanics of T-posing and tight tracking suits on the fly?
Yeah, that's a great question. One that I will admit a little bit of my ignorance to. I don't do a lot of mocap. I don't direct a lot of mocap. I have friends that are very, very active in the mocap world. Mocap, PCAP, fantastic actors. Um, I'm just going to go back to kind of my stock answer of if you like doing it and it's part of it's another way to play pretend, learn how to do it. Why
Mm,
not? What's the harm, right? The thing that motion capture will do for you, that you may not get from your average VO class, teaches you how to be a physical actor, especially in video games. Physicality is everything,
mm,
everything. It's all good to have a rich imagination, a full imaginative world, but if you don't know how to inhabit your body in that world, you're missing a part of
mm,
the equation, right? Or you're missing some seasoning that you can sprinkle on. Um, uh, yes, there are great actors out there who can sit in the chair and just sit in front of the mic and give it to you. But there's another gear that you can shift into if you learn how to be in your body and how to use your body. And mocap can only teach you how to do that better.
mm.
Um, uh, I didn't ask. I should have beforehand. There's a guy out there. I plug people. I can't help but plug people that I think do good work. But there's a guy out there named Noshir Dalal. He doesn't teach much. He teaches very, very rarely. If he is teaching, take his class. Noshir Dalal is one of the finest actors I've ever worked with, and he has a deep understanding of how to be a physical actor, how to embody the physicality of a character in a way that I think is really, really unique.
Hmm.
So if you ever see his name pop
That's
up on
awesome. Maybe I'll
something,
see if he can do something at Voice One too. That'd be really
please,
cool.
please do. If you
Yeah.
ever see his name pop up, he is
Okay.
one of the best. Yeah.
Awesome. Kathy Kinzel asked, moving to LA versus moving to New York City for diving into a voiceover career.
Again, I'm biased. It's just my opinion. I think LA is where it's at. There is work in New York, but the studios are all out here. That's my answer to that. The studios are still all out here, particularly the video game world. There is just so much. There's Rockstar. There, Sony has a stage in New York. There are places, and again, you can do this from anywhere you go. Um, uh, but if you're looking at a major market to move to, I would say LA every time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Emma Lee asks, hi, I'm a newer voice actor who is also mainly trained in theater.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the notes I keep getting in my voiceover classes is that I'm bringing too much performance energy and projecting too much for the mic.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had any tips on how to transition between the theater and voiceover and how to scale things back while still retaining all of your acting choices.
Two easy questions to ask yourself. Who am I talking to and where are they? Where are we? Two easy questions. That'll do it all. That'll do it all. If Danny's right in front of me, then why would I need to talk to him like this? Danny's not an idiot. He understands what I'm saying, right? It's just those two questions will set
Hmm,
will set you right where you
that's a
need to
great
be.
answer. It'd be funny if the whole Zoom interview was conducted at that intensity, though.
No, I would
We would have
freak out.
lost some of our viewers really fast.
Right?
Great question and great answer. Very cool.
Yeah.
Ray asks, I think a lot of us are coming from a theater background like yourself. Can you
Mhm.
talk a bit about the transition from stage acting to VO acting in the booth?
Yeah. No transition. No transition. It is what it is. Good acting translates. Your work is always going to be your work. It's the same. It's just the again the parameters that change, right? In I, I always hesitate, but another mentor of mine, another dear friend, and another great person to study with if you're in LA, and are of a mind to Richard Horvitz,
Mm,
probably the best animated animation coach, teacher out there. Wonderful actor, wonderful director, dear friend. I love Richard. Richard talks about he has this idea of you got two realities when you're acting, right? You've got your primary reality and your secondary reality. Your primary reality is the actor concerns, right? How am I feeling vocally today? You know, all of the where in the script am I? Am I saying the right words? You know, all of that stuff.
mm.
And a lot of that's taken care of in your homework, in your prep, right? And then your secondary reality is what's going on. What am you know in your world of make believe. So the primary reality concerns of a theater actor are different, right? I need to make sure I'm projecting to the back of the room. I need to make sure everybody can hear me. I've got blocking that I have to make sure I do. Same with on camera acting, right? You've got more business to kind of juggle. All of that in voiceover becomes part of the secondary reality because you're not physically actually doing those things. You have to put it in your head. You have to make that part of your world of make believe, right?
But still there, it's just transitioned
It's
into
just
the
different,
secondary reality. That's
right?
really interesting.
But the way you as an actor approach that is the same.
Mhm.
It's absolutely the same because the end goal is the same.
Because
Uh,
good acting translates.
because good acting translates.
I'm
Yeah,
into that slogan
yeah, for sure.
or mantra. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, let's see. Oh, Dervla asks if you've ever worked with actors suffering from imposter syndrome And if so, any advice to help bring them out from themselves?
Uh, no, because I do all the time. I all the time. It's that it's I again. We're all on our own journeys here, and we all have our own stuff. I like to say that everybody's brain's a little bit broken. Mine certainly is, but imposter syndrome, that's something that a lot of artists, a lot of actors, a lot of creative people deal with, right? Just know that everybody else feels the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you from my personal experience, my personal journey with my own mental health. What helps is to just because I struggled a lot with mental health in my early 20s, and really before then. From puberty to my mid 20s was a real struggle for me. So socially, I've got my own, mental health background, or history that everybody does, genetic history, but somewhere around my mid 20s, I learned to just say, that's just my brain. My brain's broken. That's me. It's not real. Again, and maybe playing pretend for a living helped out with that, because I kind of recognize that as a construct, right? Um, I don't know. This is a therapy session now, um, but everybody's brain's a little bit broken. That's just how your brain's broken, and the more you can say, again, it's script analysis, right? Look at try to look objectively at what's going on, and if your concerns are legitimate, then address them. If they're not, then go, oh, it's my brain's broken.
I really love that.
Yeah.
I might start saying that. Yeah, I remember when
Please do.
I booked my first job through my agent, I kept thinking, when are they going to figure out that I tricked them into thinking I was good at this?
Yeah. Hey, look, man, I'm directing for a living. I never wanted to be a director. I had no interest in it. In fact, I thought I didn't want to do it,
Mm.
and I'm doing it for a living now. That was just my brain being broken, you know. That's all it is. Yeah. Look, especially if you get hired on something, if you get cast on something, and that's where the imposter syndrome's coming from. Shut up.
Hmm.
They chose you. They chose you. Trust me, I've worked in casting. I have friends that work in casting full time. I'm friends with casting directors. They want you. They want you there. They want you to be the best you can be. They believe in you because they wouldn't hire you otherwise. They'd hire one of the other 300 people that they heard. So if you got chosen, you're there for a reason.
More
Yeah.
great advice. Just keep writing this, folks. I think
Mhm.
Erica said she's taking a bunch of notes that she'll send over. You can send them my way too, Erica. I have my own question. Are there any challenges that you've discovered, either as a director or an actor, that are unique to video games?
Physicality is a big one, man. We talked about it a little bit, but again, you're in a booth by yourself. You're in a room of whatever variable size you're in,
Hmm.
and unless you're doing full performance capture, it's you and a microphone behind some glass. Uh, you have to be. I am a firm believer that really good people who excel in in voiceover are some of the best actors in the world, because you have to hold so much information. You have to hold so many things in your brain, in your imagination, and react to them.
Mm.
Um, uh, the other thing, and you asked about video games, dubbing is incredibly difficult, I
Mm.
think, because again, you're especially live action dubbing. You are you're approximating by yourself in a dark room watching TV. You are approximating a full production with lighting, with sound, with effects, with stunts, with other actors. You have to build all of that for yourself,
Hmm.
and you have to live in it absolutely fully. Otherwise, we recognize the falsehood, and so. Yeah, physicality with video games, really, really important. The other thing is, the other challenge I would say that just springs to mind is the speed at which video games happen. A video game session, a typical session for me is 4 hours. Depending on it, it all depends on how dialogue heavy it is. If it's, combat barks, call outs, that kind of thing. But I'll get through 200 to 300 lines of dialogue in a 4-hour session.
Wow.
Boom, 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 boom. You got to
Mm-hmm.
move. And that's where, again, that script analysis, that being able to kind of let go of the need to impress or the need to drive the story yourself, that kind of open vessel kind of attitude of being an actor, and just being adaptable and boom, go with whatever you're pitched,
Mm.
make a quick choice, and trust in yourself and your own uniqueness, to make it interesting. You don't have to make it interesting. The words do the work. The
You
writers
already
of
are interesting, right?
yeah, that's right. You already are interesting. That's exactly right. So yeah, be physical in a way that doesn't fuck up the tech. Although that's not your job, that's the engineer's job. Let them do their job. Move in there. If they say, we're getting some shirt rustle, figure out a different way to move, but don't worry about it. Let them tell you it's a problem before it's a problem. Um, so yeah, be physical, and move quick.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we're winding down here.
Really? I'm just getting started. I'm having
I
so
I
much
know,
fun.
I know you could keep going. Well, anybody that wants more of this incredible advice from Tyler, and hey, some direction too, Tyler
Ha.
is teaching a class, a 4-hour class called Video Game Session on July 24th. That's a Saturday. It starts at 10 a.m. You can find it under the character section of our website. Yeah, it's called Video Game Session. It's all kind of about emulating a video game session, what goes on in it and the direction and type of stuff you'll receive there. Is there any way, like, do you have a website? Are you on Twitter where someone could get a hold of you if they wanted to
Oh, sure. I
say
mean,
hey?
if you like people who are silent for months on Twitter and then throw out something completely non sequitur, follow me on Twitter.
There you go.
You know what? I'll throw it in the chat here real quick. Let's do
I'll also throw this in the chat. That's a good idea.
panelists and attendees. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm tylerrhodesvo.com. And I am at King of the Rhoads on all of the
Oh, that's a
things.
cool name.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's neat. um Super. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's it. Sorry, I know there's a couple more questions there. Well, one's really fast. How do you spell Nosher Dalal?
Oh, someone did it in the chat, but
Oh,
it's
someone did in the
N-O,
chat. Cool.
it's Noshir and then Dal.
Perfect. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you can let Nosher know that we ended on that.
Yeah, he loves it when I tell people to bug him.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, thank you so much. This was really a fun hour for me. Very insightful too, and I'm sure it was for everyone. Yeah, and really looking forward to your class on the 24th. Can't
Me
wait.
too, man. I love it. I love jumping in.
You got a big, busy day of directing ahead of you, or are you?
You know what? I'm off today.
Nice.
It's a rare day off for me. Back into it next week, but
Awesome. Well, I hope the weather's good down in LA and that you get to make the most of it.
it's not bad.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Well,
Thanks, guys.
yeah, thank you again. I'll see you around.
Talk to you later.
Bye.